Think about the last time you got genuinely frustrated with something.
Well, yeah. Like really annoyed.
Right, and you said something like, "You shouldn't have lied to me." Or, I mean, maybe you were just mad at yourself, staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., thinking, "Man, I really shouldn't have done that."
We all do that. The 2 a.m. guilt trip.
Exactly. But without even realizing it, in those completely ordinary moments,
Mm.
you are making this massive, universe-altering philosophical assumption.
You're assuming you had a choice.
Yes, you are assuming that a choice was actually possible. Because if there wasn't a choice, I mean, if every single human action is just this inescapable robotic chain of cause and effect, then scolding your friend for lying is literally as absurd as screaming at a gramophone record for playing a bad song.
Or, yelling at a rock for falling when you drop it.
Mm.
It is entirely absurd. I mean, you wouldn't blame a rock for hitting the ground. Gravity demanded it. The laws of physics dictated its exact path the second it left your hand.
Yeah, the rock couldn't choose to just hover there.
Exactly. Yet we hold humans accountable every single day. We build entire justice systems, relationships, whole societies on the assumption that the person could have acted differently.
Which brings us to the core of what we are analyzing today. We are doing a deep dive into this incredibly rich, dense essay by the thinker H.V.B. Arelp.
It's a fantastic piece of writing.
It really is. And he tackles the ultimate philosophical showdown, right?
Yeah.
Determinism versus freedom. But what I love is that Arelp doesn't just leave this in the realm of dry academic equations.
No, not at all.
His entire mission with this text is to expose how this ancient debate actively dictates your biology, like the way your brain processes your morning commute and the actual mechanics of your consciousness.
Yeah, he takes this towering, super abstract debate and he just roots it firmly in the physical reality of being a human being.
Which is so refreshing.
It is. It forces us to look at our daily routines and ask, are we actually making choices or are we simply running a biological script?
So let me ask you this. If we instinctively feel that we have free will, if it's the foundation of literally all our social interactions, why did human beings ever come up with this rigid, rule-bound concept of determinism in the first place?
That's the big question.
Right. Why invent the idea that the universe is a locked grid of causes and effects where choice just doesn't exist? Arelp makes this really compelling argument that determinism, well, it didn't actually start as a theory at all.
It didn't, not even close. Determinism wasn't born in some ivory tower or a modern laboratory. Arelp argues that determinism was originally an unconscious, visceral survival tool.
A survival tool.
Yeah. To really grasp this, you have to look at the environment of early humans.
Mm-hmm.
If you are going to survive in a totally hostile physical world, you need to be able to predict it.
Makes sense.
So when you take a step forward, your brain operates on the absolute expectation that the ground will hold your weight just like it did a second ago.
Right, you're not recalculating gravity with every step.
Exactly. When a hunter throws a spear, they rely on the deterministic physics of trajectory. Or when an early farmer plants a seed of wheat, they do so trusting it will grow into wheat and not, randomly sprout into an oak tree.
Because if the world doesn't follow rules, you starve.
Or you get eaten.
You're done for.
Mm-hmm.
Even animal predators rely on the physical predictability of their prey's environment. Arelp actually asks us to envision a universe governed by pure, unadulterated randomness.
That sounds exhausting.
It would be impossible. A world where gravity pulls you down on Tuesday, but then pushes you up into the stratosphere on Wednesday. Water boils at room temperature 1 hour and freezes in a fire the next.
Wow.
In a world of continuous, unpredictable chaos like that, biological life couldn't even sustain itself, let alone evolve.
Yeah.
We fundamentally required a stable, deterministic environment just to survive.
So to handle the chaos, the human intellect had to perform this psychological trick.
Yeah, exactly. Arelp describes it as slicing up reality. Like, we took the continuous, wildly chaotic flow of the universe and intellectually froze it into named, static objects.
We had to.
Right? We created categories and predictable rules because our brains just do not have the processing power to deal with an infinite, ever-changing reality.
The intellect operates by arresting movement. That's a key point. It needs things to hold still so it can calculate its next move.
Okay, let's unpack this with an analogy based on the text, because I think this is so cool.
Go for it.
Imagine reality is this massive, chaotic, totally avant-garde theatrical performance.
I like this.
There are dozens of actors sprinting around the stage. The lighting is totally erratic. The sets are spinning. It's just a continuous flow of movement. But you need to safely walk across that stage without getting trampled.
Good luck.
Right. Your brain cannot process the trajectory of every moving piece in real time. So it takes a panoramic photograph. It essentially freezes all the actors in place. Now you have a static map. You can chart a safe path from stage left to stage right. But in doing so, in taking that frozen photograph, you have completely lost the actual living movement of the play.
Yes.
You traded the truth of the motion for the safety of the map.
That captures Aralp's point beautifully. The human brain biologically wired itself to hunt for patterns in these frozen frames. We seek out predictability because determinism is the ultimate action-oriented tool. It's what literally gets you through the day safely.
Right.
But we have to recognize that this deterministic map is just a tool we invented for biological survival. It is not a perfect reflection of absolute truth.
Which introduces a massive contradiction here, because if our brains are brilliantly wired to freeze reality just enough to keep us alive, it begs the question, why did philosophers take this practical survival hack and turn it into a universal law that strips us of our humanity?
That is the tragic twist in the history of thought.
Yeah. How did a tool for finding food become an intellectual prison that denies human freedom entirely?
To answer that, Aralp points to what we could call a grand philosophical blind spot. If you look at the history of science and philosophy, there is this intense, almost obsessive desire to build neat, tightly bound intellectual systems.
Right. They want everything to make sense.
Thinkers want a unified theory. They want every single phenomenon in the universe to fit perfectly inside a locked, symmetrical box where all the math always balances out.
And human freedom is like the ultimate wrench in the gears of that math. It just doesn't fit in a box.
No, freedom is inherently messy. It's difficult to define, it's totally unpredictable, and it defies categorization. As Aralp notes, freedom is something you live and experience from the inside.
It's a feeling, an action.
Exactly. It's not something you can observe and measure from the outside like a chemical reaction in a beaker. So, faced with this incredibly messy, unquantifiable reality, many philosophers found it mathematically cleaner to just simply erase freedom from the equation altogether.
They just swept the mess right under the rug to make their theories look elegant.
Pretty much.
Earl brings up Baruch Spinoza as the prime offender here, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
Spinoza argued that our feeling of free will is actually just a delusion born out of ignorance.
A very bold claim.
Very bold. He claimed that if a human mind were capable of knowing every single microscopic cause and effect leading up to a decision, your genetics, your childhood, the exact chemical state of your brain in that millisecond, we would see that every action is a mathematical necessity.
Right.
Spinoza actually believed that recognizing this absolute, unbending necessity was the highest form of enlightenment.
He equated understanding that strict determinism with a kind of godlike perfection.
But the text rightfully calls Spinoza out on this, and I just find this critique so satisfying.
Yeah.
Because how could Spinoza possibly know that?
He couldn't.
Right. He didn't run a universe-scale experiment. He couldn't observe every microscopic cause. He simply made the concept of necessity his starting point, because it allowed him to build a beautiful, flawless philosophical system.
It fit his narrative.
Exactly. He assumed determinism was universal because he wanted the universe to be a neat equation.
It is a profound overreach, really, disguised as logic. And Aralp also critiques Immanuel Kant, who took a different, though honestly equally problematic route.
Oh, Kant's solution is so frustrating.
It is. Kant desperately wanted to protect the absolute deterministic rules of science, but he also wanted to save human morality. And morality requires freedom.
Obviously. You can't be moral if you don't have a choice.
Right. So his solution was to push freedom completely out of the realm of lived reality. He made freedom this mystical, abstract postulate that exists in some unknowable realm, totally detached from our everyday actions.
Which renders it totally useless. If my freedom only exists in an unknowable void, it doesn't help me decide whether to quit my job or, how to treat my family today.
Precisely. And Aralp argues that both Spinoza's outright denial and Kant's mystical banishment stem from one foundational confusion in human thought.
This is the big paradigm shift in the text.
It is. He says thinkers, scientists, and philosophers consistently confuse space with time.
Okay, that is a really dense concept. Let's break that down. We experience both space and time continuously. How exactly are the greatest minds in history mixing them up?
Aralp clarifies that determinism, these rigid, predictable, reversible laws we've been discussing, only genuinely applies to lifeless matter. And lifeless matter exists purely in space.
Okay.
Think about the stone we mentioned earlier. A falling stone is matter occupying space. It forms what physics calls a closed system. In a closed system, everything is mechanical, which means the mat is entirely reversible.
Reversible, like you can rewind it.
Exactly. If an astronomer knows the exact position and velocity of a planet today, they can rewind the equation, tell you exactly where that planet was 4 million years ago. Time, for a closed system, is really just another spatial dimension you can slide forward and backward on.
But I cannot slide backward. I can't unlive an argument I had yesterday.
And that is the absolute crux of the argument. Conscious beings do not just exist in space. We exist in real, lived time. And lived time flows exclusively in one direction. It is completely irreversible.
We are not a closed system.
No, Airalp defines conscious beings as open systems. The mechanism that makes us an open system is memory and accumulation. You carry your entire history with you.
Oh, I see.
When a pot of water boils, it doesn't remember being boiled yesterday. It reacts identically every single time. But when you face a difficult choice, you remember the last time you made a similar choice and the pain or joy it caused.
Yeah, that experience changes me.
That accumulation of memory fundamentally alters your current state. You are never the exact same system from one second to the next.
That totally destroys the idea of reversing the equation. If my very composition is changed by the act of living, there is no mathematical formula that can predict my next move with absolute certainty because the me making the choice didn't even exist until this very second. There's this thought experiment in Airalp's essay that perfectly illustrates how we got this so wrong. He quotes a mathematician who proposed a scenario.
Oh, the cloud scenario. This is brilliant.
Yes. Imagine if the Earth had been permanently covered in thick clouds for our entire history. If early humans had never, ever once seen the stars, our science and civilization would be fundamentally different.
It's a staggering point because astronomy was humanity's very first science.
Right. And what do you see when you look at the stars? You see perfect, closed mechanical systems, planets orbiting in exact, predictable loops.
Clockwork.
We looked up into the vacuum of space, observed lifeless matter following strict deterministic laws, and we were so mesmerized by the mathematical perfection of it that we mistakenly applied those same laws to the messy, flowing, irreversible reality of human life.
We forced the analogy where it didn't belong.
We looked at a rock floating in space and said, ah, yes, that must be exactly how the human mind works.
We took the rules of the stage and tried to apply them to the actors.
Yes.
But of course, this raises a major biological hurdle that we have to address. We are not made of mystical energy. We are composed of matter.
Right, we're carbon, oxygen, calcium.
If our physical bodies are constructed of atoms, and atoms obey the deterministic laws of space, how does life physically escape the chains of physics?
Yeah, because my arm operates like a lever. My heart pumps like a mechanical valve. Where is the actual room for freedom inside a biological machine?
To unpack this, Aralp takes us back to René Descartes. Descartes revolutionized the study of biology by introducing the concept of the animal machine.
He said living things are basically just machines.
Right. He proposed that we should study living bodies exactly as if they were complex clockwork devices. And methodologically, this was a massive breakthrough. It allowed science to map the circulatory system, understand digestion through chemistry, study muscle contractions through physics.
That's why modern medicine works.
Exactly. The medical leaps we've made are entirely due to treating the physical body as a deterministic machine.
But, and this is a big but, a heart pumping blood is very different from a brain writing a symphony.
They're totally different.
Physics can explain how my vocal cords vibrate, but it cannot explain why I chose to sing a specific song right now.
That is Airalp's crucial distinction. He draws a hard line between operation and creation.
Operation versus creation.
Yes, the operation of a machine can absolutely be explained by mechanical laws. Once an internal combustion engine is built, you can use physics to explain exactly how it burns fuel.
Right, the mechanics are set.
But physics is entirely incapable of explaining the spark of inspiration that caused an engineer to invent the engine in the first place.
Biology has spent centuries treating human beings purely as machines, which works great until you reach the phenomenon of consciousness. And Airalp's argument here feels like a definitive evolutionary mic drop.
It really does.
He points out a glaring flaw in this strict determinist worldview. In nature, efficiency is everything. Airalp writes, to exist is to act. If an organ or a trait exists, is it because it serves an active function in survival?
It does something tangible. Evolution doesn't keep useless things around for long.
Exactly. So, If universal determinism were true, if every single action, thought, and word was already pre-programmed by the physics of our atoms since the Big Bang, then consciousness would be completely useless.
It would serve zero purpose.
It would just be a passive, impotent movie screen forced to watch a predetermined script unfold without any ability to change the ending.
And if consciousness had no ability to alter our behavior or actually change outcomes, evolution would have weeded it out millions of years ago as a massive waste of biological energy.
Right.
Why develop this incredibly complex, calorie-hungry brain just to be a passive observer?
It wouldn't. The very fact that consciousness evolved proves it must have an active function. And here's where it gets really interesting for you listening. Think about when your consciousness is the absolute sharpest.
It's not when you're relaxed.
No. It is never when things are going according to plan. It is always when your automatic, mechanical habits fail you. Consider your daily commute to work.
Oh, the autopilot commute.
We all know it. If you have driven the same route for 5 years, you are practically a deterministic machine. You navigate traffic, you stop at red lights, make turns on total autopilot. You can pull into your parking spot and realize you have literally no memory of the last 20 minutes.
It's a little scary, honestly.
It is. Your consciousness is dimmed because the mechanical habit is handling the operation. But suddenly, out of nowhere, a car swerves directly into your lane.
Your biology reacts instantly. Heart rate skyrockets. Adrenaline floods your system.
And your consciousness spikes to maximum capacity. The mechanical autopilot is shattered. In that split second, instinct and habit aren't enough. You are violently pulled into the present moment, and you have to make an active choice, swerve left, slam the brakes, accelerate.
You have to act.
Iralp argues that this is the entire purpose of consciousness. Consciousness is the faculty of decision. It evolves specifically to intervene when the deterministic rules of the physical world are no longer sufficient to keep you alive.
It is the ultimate proof that we are not solely bound by cause and effect. Consciousness is the evolutionary tool designed to break the chain.
That just reframes the human mind entirely for me.
It's empowering.
But it also introduces a really uncomfortable reality. If we possess this incredible evolutionary superpower of freedom, why do we spend so much of our lives feeling utterly trapped?
Yeah.
Why does it so often feel like we're just stuck on a hamster wheel, blindly reacting to emails, doom scrolling, and just going through the motions without any real agency?
This is where Iralp's essay gets deeply introspective, and he introduces the concept of the crust and the core.
The crust in the core.
Yeah. We established earlier that to survive in a material physical world, we have to adapt to its rules. We have to predict our environment. Iralp argues that the consequence of interacting with the material world is that we have to materialize ourselves a bit. We have to become slightly rigid.
We have to adopt the traits of the stones and the closed systems just to function in society.
Yes. Our intellect, the rigid structure of language we use, our daily routines, social conventions, the corporate jargon we employ at work, all of these repetitive, predictable actions calcify over time. They form a hardened, materialized crust over our inner lives.
Wow.
And we willingly build this crust because it makes interacting with the world incredibly efficient. It is exhausting to be deeply, freely conscious of every single micro decision you make in a day.
I mean, you'd never get anything done.
Right. The crust is the autopilot that lets you navigate the grocery store without having an existential crisis in the cereal aisle.
But the danger is that we start mistaking the crust for our actual identity. We think the daily grind, the reactive doom scrolling, and the mechanical habits are who we truly are.
We mistake the operation for the creation.
Oof.
Beneath that thick materialized crust lies a deep, continuous, irreversibly flowing inner consciousness. That is your true core. That is where time actually flows and where genuine choices are born.
The open system.
Exactly. But Iralp warns us that tapping into this deep inner life is exceptionally difficult. It requires immense friction. Most of the time, most of us just live comfortably on the surface of the crust.
Iralp uses an analogy in the text that is, frankly, genuinely haunting. He says that just as there are people who will live their entire lives and die without ever truly experiencing profound love or deep friendship, there are people who will live and die without ever experiencing true freedom. They will spend their entire existence simply reacting to stimuli, letting the crust dictate every single move.
It is a sobering thought, but it completely redefines our understanding of freedom. Aralt makes it clear that freedom is not just some default state of being. You are not handed freedom simply because you were born human.
Right, you're not inherently free.
No, you are a being capable of being free.
It's a potential energy. It's something you have to actively synthesize.
Freedom is a battle. It is a daily, active rebellion against the materialized crust of your own habits and the deterministic pressures of society. When you simply go with the flow, when you allow algorithms to dictate your attention or habit to dictate your reactions in an argument,
You're giving up.
you are surrendering your open system to determinism. You are letting the crust win.
And if you actively adopt the philosophy of strict determinism, like, if you tell yourself that none of your choices matter because it's all just physics anyway, Arap argues you are embracing a worldview far more suffocating than ancient fatalism.
That distinction between fatalism and determinism is vital. People often conflate them, but they are fundamentally different experiences.
How so?
Think of fatalism like being a passenger on a train. The final destination is completely fixed. You're going to arrive at that station no matter what.
Okay.
But while you are on the train, you can walk between cars, you can choose who you sit next to, you can read a book or look out the window. Only the final outcome is destined.
But strict determinism is infinitely tighter than that. Strict determinism is like being strapped into a roller coaster where you are locked into a harness, and the tracks dictate every single millimeter of your movement.
Yes, every drop, every turn.
Every twist is mathematically bolted down. There is no walking around the cabin. Every single microlink in the chain of your existence is locked. Believing that strips away any reason to strive, to create, or to take responsibility.
Exactly. Aralp shows us that surrendering to determinism isn't some great scientific victory. It is the ultimate defeat of the human spirit.
So we've journeyed from the savannas, where early humans needed determinism just to predict a thrown spear, through the philosophical blunders of confusing the timeless, reversible void of space with the flowing reality of lived time.
It's been quite a trip.
It really has. We've seen how biology maps the machine, but cannot explain the ghost inside it. And ultimately, we've learned that our consciousness evolved for the express purpose of shattering the mechanical autopilot of the universe. The cosmos may be bound by the deterministic laws of lifeless matter, but it points toward freedom through the conscious choices of living beings.
Determinism is not our prison. It is merely the stage we stand on. The error of philosophers was believing that just because the stage is predictable, the actors couldn't improvise.
I love that.
Aralp leaves us with a deeply optimistic truth about the nature of being an open system. In the purely material world of closed system, the laws of thermodynamics tell us that nothing is ever truly created, and nothing is ever destroyed. Matter and energy simply change form, endlessly recycling the exact same static pieces.
The equations always balance to zero.
Yes, but in the realm of the spirit, and the flowing core of human consciousness, while nothing is ever destroyed because we carry our memories with us, infinite new things can be created.
Because we bring something new to the timeline.
Exactly. The inner core is the engine of true novelty. It is the birthplace of all art, scientific discovery, philosophy, and human connection. These are not just rearrangements of old matter. They are entirely new artifacts of human freedom, piercing right through the crust of determinism.
Because an open system can introduce completely unprecedented variables into reality. That is a phenomenal way to view the human experience.
It gives you a lot to think about.
It really does. And I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to carry with you as you navigate the crust of your own routines today. Think about how we instinctively view the future. We almost always spatialize it.
We treat it like a place on a map.
Exactly. We treat tomorrow like it is a fixed destination on a map that we are inevitably driving toward. We assume tomorrow is a closed system that has already been drawn, and we are just waiting to arrive there.
But it's not.
No. Based on Aralp's vision of the deep inner core, what if tomorrow isn't a place on a map at all? What if tomorrow is entirely blank, a canvas that only comes into physical existence through the friction of the choices you make today?
I love that framing.
If true freedom is a constant uphill battle against the materialized crust of your daily autopilot, what is one tiny action you took today that wasn't just a predictable, habitual reaction? What was one deliberate, genuine brushstroke that actually originated from your deep inner life?
That's the real challenge.
It is. We are so glad you joined us for this deep dive. Keep challenging the autopilot, keep breaking through the crust, and we will see you next time.